Does anyone remember this television character from the early 2000s on HBO? Sometimes coming across a depiction of massage therapy in popular media can be as rare as coming across a character that shares my first name. I am Kirby Clark Ellis, MMT, BCTMB, and this is Pop Culture Fridays. We are starting this series off strong. The Sopranos was a crime drama series on HBO that ran for 6 seasons from 1999 to 2007. It also features, in my opinion, the best representations of massage therapy in pop culture that I've ever seen. We are first introduced to the character Tony B, portrayed by Steve Buscemi, in Season 5 after he is released from a 17-year prison sentence for armed hijacking. Over breakfast, Tony B and his cousin, the other Tony, the mafia boss of the New Jersey crime family, and the show's main protagonist, exchange ideas on what Tony B's life will look like out of prison. Tony B recounts how early into his sentence he was transferred to a big prison hospital and became an orderly. I really got into it, helping guys with broken limbs and muscle diseases. He tells his cousin, the boss of the crime family, that this is something he thinks he can really do now that he's out of prison, and that he's only 6 months away from his massage license. Confused, the other Tony asks, "So you want to open a massage parlor?" Still assuming that Tony B's life outside of prison will involve crime in some way. "No," Tony B tells him, "I'm going to be a licensed massage therapist." He insists that he's been away from this life of crime that he once lived, and that if he has a chance to set his life straight, he wants to take it. So the other Tony helps him get a straight job delivering linens for a laundry service. Later in the same episode, we see Tony B bring a massage chair into one of the mob's favorite hangouts at the end of his workday. One of the chief henchmen nods to the massage chair and asks, "What's that for, drying shirts?" in an attempt to mock Tony B for his civilian job. But Tony B is unbothered and replies proudly, "It's a Tao Master massage chair." The scene cuts to Tony B giving chair massages to the whole crew, many of them groaning with appreciation. And in this scene, we see Tony B employ many accurate and appropriate massage techniques. In a later episode, Tony B demonstrates his anatomical prowess by helping a doctor, an emergency room physician, recall medical information on how an injury must have occurred. Tony B points out that if the patient in question were wearing a seatbelt at the time of impact of a car wreck, that there would be abrasions to the lateral anterior aspect of the clavicle or to the right mid-sternum. The doctor asks, impressed, "Are you a physician?" To which Tony B replies, "No, I'm a pre-board certified massage therapist." The ER doctor has to agree with Tony B that those injuries were present and that would indicate an upright position during impact. It was at this point I had to stop the playback for myself and say, I know that a massage therapist was involved in some of these episodes. In the very next episode, which also happens to be the last one to feature massage therapy, we are shown Tony B very hard studying while the rest of his family is enjoying dinner. Now, whether New Jersey accepted the NBLEX or the NCB-TMB exam circa 2004 is beyond my knowledge. Perhaps one of my good friends from the Garden State would be able to help answer that question. But when one of Tony B's family members sees all of this study material, they tell him that they thought that the exam was sort of like a big gym test. And Tony B replies, "People don't realize what massage involves. I'm practically doing 2 years of medical school all on my own." And I don't mean to disparage medical school or anybody who's gone through a medical program, but that sentiment from Tony B perfectly encapsulates what going through a massage therapy program feels like. Later on, Tony B is hitting the books again at work. As a matter of fact, it's at 5 a.m. before he's even clocked into work. And this time he's making flashcards. His employer invites him to a sit-down and explains to him that he's being so hard on him because the employer always has it in the back of his mind that Tony B is an ex-con, or as he puts it, a professional criminal. But he also tells him that he admires Tony B for his work ethic and studying. Tony B tells his boss that the exam is pretty hard, which it is, and that it has a huge failure rate, which can sometimes be true as well. His boss asks him what he plans to do if he should pass his exam, and introduces the idea of setting up a small business To which Tony B muses about 4 or 5 massage tables, a soothing atmosphere, and piping in a little bit of Keith Jarrett. His boss further explains that he admires Tony B's work ethic so much and that he would stake him money to open a storefront operation. Tony B gratefully accepts. Later on still, Tony B struggles to answer a flashcard question in full, with the stress clearly setting in. When one of the mobsters asks him why he's going to so much trouble, quote, just to touch a bunch of strangers, Tony doesn't respond to that, other than to lament, I know all of this stuff, and then the next minute it's gone. My mind's just all over the place. This demonstrates the all-too-real struggle that massage therapy students go through in prepping for their exams. Finally, the big day comes and we see Tony B seated at a computer taking his examinations. The question on the screen completely stumped me, which resonates with my own experience of taking the NBLEX. And shortly after, the scene jumps to Tony and his wife waiting for his results to come back. Tony B's frustration in having to wait so long for results to, quote, just be spit out, is relieved whenever the proctor comes and informs him that his results either meet or exceed the required minimum for licensure, which is the case nowadays. The NBLEX will give you pass or fail grades only, but in my time, the NBLEX gave you a numerical score. The proctor tells Tony B that he is now board certified in massage and bodywork by the state of New Jersey, which isn't entirely accurate of how licensing works. I'd have to wait for the exam results to be sent into the state licensing agency and then wait for the license to come in the mail. Tony B's astonishment in finding out that he passed his examination is palpable and relatable. He is literally left breathless. Following this, Tony B is showing off the flexible storefront space to the other Tony, and shares his vision for the space as a row of rooms with different themes. Asian themed for shiatsu, a Danish thing for Rolfing, even though technically it's Swedish. All in all, The Sopranos is full of imperfect and anti-hero type characters. However, throughout his journey to obtain his massage therapy license, Tony B is challenged with balancing the requirements of his parole, the urgency to cram as much study material as possible for his exams, holding a legitimate and laborious job while he is valued as less because of his ex-con status, and sharing custody of his twin underage boys, not to mention constantly being taunted and jeered by the mob family that he once knew. But Tony B overcomes it all, just like many other massage therapists I've personally known. He does this without getting defensive or crumbling underneath all of the pressure, up to the point of passing his licensing exams. Without giving too much else away, I'll just say that becoming a massage therapist doesn't exactly work out for Tony B. But for better or worse, the episodes where The Sopranos, ever committed to hyper-realism portrayals, highlights massage therapy, it does a really great job of it through the character of Tony B. But what about you? What are some of your favorite or least favorite representations of massage therapy in pop culture? Let me know in the comments below.